What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Bat Flip, where we discuss everything baseballs. I'm Lane Araby. With me, Dylan Taylor. Also in the background, Deuce Thomas. Tennessee gets another sweep to start the season, the second one in a row, to improve to 7-0 on the season with a series sweep over Samford, not Stanford, Samford, the Alabama version. So good to go ahead and get beating teams out of Alabama. Just good to get that going early. I like that. Enjoy that. Tennessee won game one 5-1, won game two 7-3, and game three was a 7 inning run rule 11-1, outscoring Sanford 23-5 in the series. And I know like Sanford isn't a huge power four big name program, but they are in a good conference. They were picked second in that conference, only to UNC Greensboro, who made a regional last year. Samford was almost a regional team. And I think they had some really good players. I mentioned on our show last night that, they had a guy pumping 98 on Sunday that was listed as an infielder. I mean, this isn't a Hofstra. They're not in the same category as Hofstra. So, do kind of want to start by saying I think that is a decent baseball team. Are they the quality of Tennessee? Obviously not. Tennessee just has a talent, just has the bats, the pitching, um, to win a series. I mean, I think Sanford could probably win a game every now and then, but they are not built to beat a team like Tennessee in a 3-game series. My biggest takeaway kind of from this team is Tennessee, I think, is still really good. And after another frigid weekend, I think the biggest thing I took away, we saw a lot of home runs, but I think Tennessee's pitching is really coming into its own. Friday night, I think it's going to be huge, kind of start each series with a win when you have Liam Doyle and Tanner Franklin. Marcus Phillips is looking the part on Saturday, and Sunday I think is kind of TBD. We'll see kind of where Tennessee's at with, is it Nate Snead? Is it Brandon Arvinson? Will we see Tegan Coons at some point? Are we saving that? Is it just going to be a bullpen game until AJ Russell's back for hopefully SEC play? I don't know, but my biggest takeaway was that Tennessee I mean, I think Sanford has some pretty good hitters, and they just shut them down for the most part.
One of those series that it's a good enough squad, not a great squad, but it's a good enough squad to where they will put up a couple runs. It's
Yeah.
one of those teams that can give you a little bit of adversity to see how guys respond to it. Now that's you kind of wonder how useful that is because over the past couple of years, I mean, this is a team that does respond and a program really that does respond to adversity. So but hey, you got guys work this weekend, more some of them that we talked about last weekend that we didn't get to see that much shine this weekend. So all around it's you never hurt playing those series. The only way you hurt is if you actually leave someone or leave the series with someone being hurt. And luckily, you're this part of the year you're still fresh. Did want to say commonly confused for Stanford. I don't appreciate you dogging them too much, though. This says Sanford top 10% of public affairs schools in the United States. So just a
Oh,
little bit of respect right there. I don't
I
know
was
public
not
affairs
familiar
is
with your work, Sanford. I do
top
apologize.
10%. Top 10%. Let's give credit where it's due.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I think when you look at Tennessee's pitching, I mean, obviously they have their true Friday night guy, and like Tennessee's had some Friday night guys in the past. They haven't had one as dominant as Liam Doyle has been up to this point. Now, could things change when he gets to SEC play? Sure. Um, but they haven't had a guy that's just racking up 10 strikeouts every time he steps on the mound. And it looks easy for him. Nobody's really getting a ton of barrels on the ball. I mean, there are some that's probably going to run into a barrel every now and then, like we saw Friday night. But then I love the kind of switch up that Frank Anderson and Tony Vitello are doing with, you have Liam Doyle just pumping, 96 by you. He's got a nasty breaking ball as well. But then you could throw in another guy who kind of towers up. He's like 6'6" on the mound in Tanner Franklin, who is just an easy, just a tall, lanky kid that it's just pumping, 96 again at you from the right side. I think that's almost impossible for hitters, especially a team like Samford, to really catch up to. And, probably by the time you get caught up with Liam Doyle, it's going over to Tanner Franklin. Maybe by the time you start getting a beat on Tanner Franklin, the game's over. And like I said earlier, you're starting the series off 1-0. I think that's really cool that they have that. And then you're pitching two guys on night one, and then you have all the rest of those arms for the next two games to get you at least another win.
Yeah, and the main thing that's impressed me so far is, the phrase pitch tunneling. That's been a big. It seems like everybody wants to talk about tunneling nowadays. I mean, it's always been around. It's the concept of using one pitch to set up another one to fool the hitter.
Yeah.
In college, you get used to at this level, even at Tennessee, Florida programs like that, they're cream of the crop. What you're really looking for with college pitchers is, do they have two good pitches? If you can get a third good pitch, a fourth good pitch, that's the stuff that really, you hope to have that develop by senior year. And that's what, scouts are looking for. The reality is you need two. You need you don't need, you want a hard fastball and something you can break off of it. And it is incredible to me the amount of guys that's their baseline, is having 100-mile-per-hour fastball in the bag and a dirty slider to break it right off of. So that's my main takeaway, is just the amount of guys that can do the things that you would like everybody to be able to do. They do that with ease. And the amount of guys that are going to leave here over the next couple of years having a solid, very workable third pitch, working on a fourth pitch when they leave, that's incredible to me. I don't know if I've ever seen that much talent in the college program before on the mound.
Yeah. And I think, I was talking about Tanner Franklin's fastball. He told us his favorite pitch is his cutter. That's like 93, which is crazy. And that's in 40-degree weather. Like, those guys are pumping that hard in 40 degrees. It's cold. It looks like it could rain at any moment. And they're pitching that well. And that velo, especially when competition gets there, that velo is going to go up even more to, like you said, triple digits, 100 miles an hour. And then you're constantly having to worry about 100 miles an hour being blown by you. And then you get an 85-mile-an-hour changeup or a 93-mile-an-hour cutter, and you just can't react to it.
And until it's at the plate, that all looks like the exact same pitch, except one of them's going to drop 6 inches, one of them's going to run 6 inches. And while you're trying to decide if it's going to drop or run, the fastball's going to be 6 inches past you already. So he is stuff-wise, he's one of the filthier guys I've seen come through here since Vitello's gotten here. And I mean, it's been 2 weekends now, so I'm very excited about him.
Yeah, another guy we mentioned, Marcus Phillips, 8 strikeouts on Saturday. Tennessee had 20 on Friday night between Liam Doyle and Tanner Franklin. What's kind of your overall takeaway on Marcus Phillips and what he's given Tennessee? Is this his job moving forward, or is it, we'll see?
If it's my call, it is. Yeah, I sung his praises last weekend, and yeah, he didn't do anything to discredit it this weekend. I mean, like I said, it's probably a few more pitches over the plate than you'd like, but we went back to off the top, like, it's not to disrespect them. It's a little bit of a step up in competition, but it's still, you can get away with that. I'd rather guys leave a few pitches fat like that. And just, it shows they at least have the cojones to throw it over the middle right now. Because if you can establish that now, that's something where you need that going into SEC play. You need that mentality of I'm going to throw it over the plate, see if you can hit it. So I'm glad they're kind of, like you said, if somebody runs into one every now and then, and not to dog on our park, well, but it is a hitter friendly park. As much as people try to, Tennessee fans try to, they take it as disrespect when people say it's small. I mean, it's a smaller park, and Vitello likes
Sure.
it that way. He literally
Yeah.
calls it a hornet's nest and wants to stay that way. So, I mean, it's going to happen occasionally. So, I mean, him giving up one earned run and having 8 Ks, it's his job to lose right now, and I don't think he's losing anytime soon the way he's looking.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting 8 Ks, that's perfect. I think everybody's fine with that. The one thing I do worry about with Marcus Phillips is I know 3 walks isn't a ton, and I'm not sitting here saying it is, but that is one thing where if you're going to pitch at Tennessee, you will not have a ton of walks. You just won't pitch. They want to fill up the zone and be aggressive, throw strikes. Yeah, those strikeouts are going to be up. You might give up some runs every now and then. People run into a barrel. But they do not want runners on base. What you don't want to do is give up, a runner here, a runner there, and then somebody runs into a barrel.
Right.
Because then you put yourself in a hole. But with Tennessee's lineup, one run every now and then, probably not a big deal. But yeah, that's one thing I just want to be caution with. I'm not really worried about it, especially like I was at the game on Saturday. Throat's a little sore from it. It was freezing cold. The wind was blowing. So I'm gonna count it to that more than Marcus Phillips just isn't filling up the zone. I mean, he only threw 19 balls. He threw 69 pitches, 19 or more balls. So that's not a huge number. And I don't remember all the walks off the top of my head, but hopefully it was like a 3-2 count and just missed on that payoff pitch. So yeah, I think it's his job as well. Sunday, I don't know what that's going to be. I thought Nate Snead would go, and then he pitched Saturday, and I was like, and I like that combination of the two. It is weird though, because Marcus Phillips is a righty, and then Snead's a righty. So that's a little different than what I expected them to go.
Both big guys too. They've got similar. It's kind of coming out of a similar place. Yeah.
Do you think that's just kind of testing everything, or?
Yeah, I don't know that you'll see that long term. I mean, they both had equal. I mean, I think Snead was 4 1/3. Phillips was 4 2/3. I mean, I would be surprised if that's where Snead sticks for the remainder of the season. That I could very well see that being. Now, does that mean Snead is your automatic Sunday guy? I don't know. I mean, we did kind of just abandon the thought of an opener from last year, because on Friday nights you got Doyle now. I could see them playing around with that still this year, just because they have more arms and more talent. We talked about the mentality side of it last weekend. If the staff's still comfortable with that, and they seem to be, Sunday's a little bit odd. I mean, it's a little bit unconventional to go bullpen route for that day, but I mean, got off to a lot of 1-0 starts last year. So if you can close out a series like that, and I mean, by that point, if they haven't seen many arms all weekend, like we're talking about, if Doyle is going as well as he has for as long as he can, if Phillips, like we talked about last weekend, can give you 5 innings, and whether it's Nate Snead, somebody else can come in and 1 or 2 guys can close after that, I wouldn't hate the idea of literally just throwing 7 arms on a Sunday, all from different arm slots with different spots. Because I mean, it's unconventional, but you do not have a chance through the opposing team to get anybody through the lineup twice in the same thing. So
Yeah,
from that angle, if you approach it that way with the amount of talent that you've got, I mean, that could be very frustrating in some Sunday spots for other teams.
Yeah, it's almost like we went into this weekend being like, okay, these are the 4 guys that are going to pitch the most for us this year. And let's just have Sunday as like, let's treat it like a midweek and everybody get innings.
Yeah.
And, it's just kind of an open competition, it seems like. Now, when you go to Houston this weekend, hopefully you kind of have that ironed out a little bit more. But I don't know if you are, because if AJ Russell really is coming back for SEC play, I mean, that's going to be a whole shakeup.
That's the wild card, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you plan for that, or you just kind of like let's act like he's not coming back, and when he does, it'll be a surprise, and we'll just be even better for it.
Yeah, I think that's the way you got to go about it. You can't. I mean, you've been without him, and it doesn't. Don't mean to say, or I don't mean it to sound bad, but I mean you've been without him for so long now. You've kind of adjusted to life without him. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's the Alberto Osuna at this point, where it's the when we get him, great, but at this point, like he's with us, but he's not really with us. So
sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
and that's I would kind of disagree. I don't think you have to have the Sunday thing figured out this weekend in Houston. That to me, that's a as long as you get that by SEC play. That's in my
sure.
opinion. For Sundays, Fridays, well, not Friday. I mean, Doyle's your Friday guy now. I wouldn't mind seeing that every Sunday. Just if we're playing Clemson, somebody like that against better competition, I'd still love to see the same method for Sundays where it's like kind of a bullpen game. Like let's see what everybody's got, because that's only going to get more guys work. It's only going to get more guys comfortable for SEC play. So to me, as long as you've got a general idea of your Sunday plan by SEC play, I think that's all you need.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Um, so today you started Brandon Arvidson. I thought it was strange that he started just because he started the midweek game.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think they have a ton of confidence in, like, they want him to pitch. Like, that's obvious. If he's starting a Sunday game and starting a midweek, they want him to be a starter on this team somewhere, somehow. Um, and he's just got to go out and I know he gave up the 2 hits, the 1 earned run. I mean, I thought he pitched pretty well. I mean, it wasn't a terrible day at the office. I did really like what I saw from Austin Hundley. And he's been coming in with runners on base and getting out of those innings. And I think he's just continuing to build his confidence, but also continuing to build the confidence of Frank Anderson and Tony Vitello, being like, hey, if you need me to come like get us out of a jam, here I am. I'll go do that for you.
Well, it runs in the family too, for good
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. He's like, just use me like you, Sean. We're the same person, basically. I
with
just got a little bit better of a mustache.
Yeah, with Arvidsson, it's to me, he still has impressive stuff. It's just I think it's a victim of his surroundings. Like you see what everybody has around him, and you look at him, and he's not. He to me, he doesn't have anything that's like a plus plus. Like it's just he's solid. So like, I mean, before Vitello got here, would be like, oh, Arvidsson, like that's like, but now it's not a discredit to him. It's just like I said, the surroundings around him. So I think he'll be fine. I don't know that he necessarily is gonna keep seeing the same usage over the course of the season. I agree they're probably getting him some work, just get him acclimated. But I see him more as kind of a change of pace bullpen guy over the long run.
Yeah. And then looking at the lineup, let's kind of go game by game. Tennessee kind of got started early on Friday night. Reese homered in the second. He had Peebles homer in the third. And then Saturday, it was kind of the Levi Clark. Things were pretty knotted. Tough game, went back and forth for a little bit there. Abernathy tied it up. They took the lead back. They took the lead back. Abernathy tied it up later in that game. And then in the 8th inning, you had Levi Clark come in and pitch hit with the bases loaded. And I don't know, when he started on Friday night, he went 0 for 4. But when he pinched hit on Saturday and Sunday, it was 2 for 2 with 2 home runs and I think 5 RBIs. Pretty
Yeah, I know
solid.
the trio of him, Abernathy, and Marin have combined for 18 RBIs over the weekend. So that's pretty solid for 3 freshmen. And yeah, I mean, the 0 for 4, I wouldn't look too much into that. Like you said, it's kind of a delayed start, like you moved up start. So I mean, baseball players are weird. Like any slight inconvenience, where some of us are kind of prima donnas sometimes. Anything that throws us off a little bit can mess everything up. So I don't know. He's a freshman too. Levi Clark, as good as he's going to look, he's going to have games just like that where he's going to look rough too. So, but the raw power on him. That's why, speaking about him last weekend, there's nothing wrong with Dalton Bargo at all, but
yeah,
get Levi Clark on the field as much as you can, because I mean he's already showing you what he's going to be here.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean he's going to be an absolute stud for Tennessee, and a lot of these freshmen are. And Tony Vitello kind of mentioned it. He was like, I mean, these guys could come in my office and be like, I should be starting, and doesn't really have an argument.
Yeah,
because you have so many guys at so many positions that are producing, but it's like you got 9 spots, and that's the best problem to have. But where do you go from here? Because it seems like it's first base, left field, and DH. Like those are your 3 options basically right now for everybody. Maybe third if Andrew Fisher is at first. One of those positions. Where do you kind of go, or do you think it's kind of still an open competition there?
Yeah, it's still going to be open just with how talented everybody is. I mean, I'll go player by player. Levi Clark on the field as much as he can. I think DH, I think that'd be a great spot for him. Abernathy is literally any outfielder that needs an off day. There you go. It's easier to get him on the field, in my opinion, especially. I mean, baseball's a different sport. The rest aspect, you're not going to need that for a while, especially not dealing with pitchers. Yeah. Manny Marin's the tough one to me. He's I mean, and that sucks because you see how talented he is. But he is the most opportunities I think he's going to get is right now earlier in the year, just because you don't know with the Osuna situation. Killen can move around, Curley can move around. He's got other talented guys. So Marin, that's the one that you hope at the end of the year he's not one of those guys that's like, yeah, like what you said, I should be playing more and I can somewhere else. So yeah, he's got to be on the field somewhere, but I don't. That's why Tony Vitello makes the big bucks to answer that question, because you can tell he could play multiple spots and play them really well on a daily basis, but he's just in a log jam right now.
Yeah, when you mentioned Osuna, if and when he gets back, it puts then there's 2 guys basically, or if 3 guys with Antigua is probably another one that like probably at this point every opportunity he's gotten, it seems like he's made the most of it. But you're kind of like, who do you leave out? You're just stuck behind Dean Curley and Gavin Killen, and it stinks, but that is the reality. And same with Manny Marin, which him and Antigua, I guess, are kind of like flip-flop. Like one of them.
Very similar.
Yeah. Bat's not there, gloves there. But the bat's been fine. But they're not hitting the 400-foot home runs like Levi Clark, or they're not such a presence on the base pass like Jay Abernathy is. But yeah, I'm thinking it's those 2 and probably Osuna, if I had to guess. Now I think Dalton Bargo is going to be your utility guy, and is probably going to play a bunch of different spots throughout left field. Could play first, could catch. But it seems like there's going to be some people that are just left out due to the numbers.
That's true. I think we're struggling understanding it just because it's the reality of the situation that we're in now. Like with other sports, we've never, or in my lifetime, I've never experienced. It's literally suffering from success. The meme, like it's literally what it is. I mean, we're finding out
Yeah.
what you know Alabama football, Duke basketball. It's what everybody else over these last modern college athletics with recruiting. I mean, recruiting's never the same year by year, but the talent acquisition part of it, like it literally becomes, and it's the way you want it. I mean, we're talking about like it's a bad problem. I mean, it is. It sucks for certain people, but you'd way rather have this and winning national championships than the other way. But yeah, the tough reality is there are going to be a couple of these guys, and credit to Vitello. Like I feel like I've said that the last 2 years. Like there's going to be more guys hit the portal, and guys just want to stick around, and they'll wait till their third or fourth year. But
Yeah.
with NIL taking off the way it is the past couple of years, it's just going to be the reality of the situation that some of these guys are going to have to leave to get paid and then play, and it's you hope it's not somebody that's at a position of need.
Yeah. And another guy who's really made the most of, and you saw it today, is Stone Lawless. And I know Cannon Peoples probably going to be your starting catcher, but I mean, Stone Lawless sitting there is like, hey man, I can play too. Like I throw my name in the hat. I'll DH too. I don't know. Yeah, there's just a embarrassment of riches for Tennessee right now, and it's awesome to see, but also kind of like the guys who are left out of it. It just sucks because there's nothing really they did. It's just somebody just beat you out. It wasn't like you struggled terribly, and that's why somebody got an opportunity. Is like, no, they just were a little bit. They did things a little bit better than you did to get that opportunity. So, but yeah, Dean Curley, Gavin Killen, those two guys are definitely going to be in the lineup. Andrew Fisher, Hunter Inslee. I would assume Peebles is in there somewhere, whether he's catching or DHing. He's going to be in the lineup most days. I know he's still kind of dealing with an injury. Do you think that was kind of by design today, or you think maybe there's a little something to that?
Yeah, I'd say they're just still bringing him along slow. At this point, I wouldn't rush it with anybody. It Talking about catcher though, it is kind of something I was wondering watching these games, like with all the MLB talent, future prospects that you have on this roster coming into the year. I feel like catcher was kind of one of those, and maybe I'm biased. I'm definitely biased, so take this with a grain of salt. But that it's one of the positions that I feel like wasn't very talked about this year. The only times you really heard it talked about was, well, Cal Stark's gone, like it's Peoples now and a couple young guys. The pure talent in that room is incredible. I would put it up there with middle infield, outfield, just rivaling those in terms of pure MLB talent. Like, I mean, I know Peebles hasn't no discredit to him. He's had injuries and stuff too. He hasn't quite been what he was at NC State, but with Lawless and Clark behind him, like, I mean, that's legitimately three guys, even Clark, with as young as he is, that should be starting most places. And I feel like that was kind of a position that was under the radar coming in this year, but it's really jumped out so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this freshman class is something we've seen a little bit of it, but we haven't seen it to this magnitude where there's legit 4 guys that could start every day for you. And I don't think that would be the worst thing for Tennessee. But like you've seen guys here and there kind of sporadic, and you had Dean Curley last year, you had Christian Moore, Blake Burke that was kind of thrown in and were productive as freshmen, but we're talking like every day from day one in the SEC starting. I mean, I think there's going to be 2, and there could be more depending on how everything shakes out the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's recruiting's for depth building. I mean, it's just the nature. Like it's how it's always been. So anytime, it's like college football, the video game. You find the gym, you uncover the gym there.
Yeah,
that's this class top to bottom to varying degrees. I feel like I know who you're talking about, and it's Abernathy. Like that dude, I don't know how you're going to keep him off the field. So
yeah,
it's it's the reality of the situation. But again, we talk about, well, like, who's it going to be? And it's like, okay, well, Reese Chapman just hit another nuke. Like,
Yeah.
of anybody on the team, like Inslee is safe. Like we saw, they're going to let him go through his struggles like last year. And I mean, the dude's your horse. So I mean, he kind of leaves left field. You know, you can read between the lines there, but that Abernathy is not. He's not going to be the dugout much longer.
Well, it seems like every time somebody's like, oh, they're struggling, so that guy's, probably lost his spot. It seems like when they get an opportunity again, then they blow up. Like Bargo
Yeah,
after the first weekend, I was like, man, just wasn't it. And that's just me being dumb and not thinking like baseball is like it's a roller coaster. And then the midweek game, he looks like the best player on the field.
yeah,
So yeah, it's going to be hard to. I think you mentioned him a second ago. Reese Chapman was my breakout player. I'm going to be the first one to just mention that again, just so you know I'm right up to this point. I mean, he looks like everything you thought he would be. Just solid. I mean, the power's there. He isn't missing a barrel. The strikeout numbers aren't there like they were. He is going to be a good glove as well. I think he's been Mr. Consistency in the bottom of the lineup, which you need. And so I'm excited to kind of see where he's at the rest of the way, because I think he's one that could easily been like, oh yeah, I'm not starting here. I'm going to go ahead and go
yeah.
start somewhere else. But he waited his turn, and even last year that was probably tough to like. You won a national championship, but like you weren't an everyday guy. And for him to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna run it back, and I'm gonna earn that spot, and it's gonna be mine. And I feel like he's done that to this point. And like I said, he's been great in the bottom of that lineup. Which I don't know how long he might, if he keeps raking like this, he might have to move up a little bit. But him at like 7th, 8th, I think that's a great spot for another powerful left-handed bat down there.
You always get some added credit too when every time you touch it, you knock the piss out of it. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't. Like there's
yeah,
some guys that they've got the raw power, but they'll spray one to the opposite field and get an easy
yeah,
two bagger. They'll hit a hard ground ball between first and second. Reese
yeah.
Chapman, I mean, yeah, he's got to keep it up all year, and I agree with you. I was very high on him coming into the year, so he's got to keep it up, and we'll see. It doesn't seem like this staff. I mean, now does Chapman bring like the leadership, that kind of value that Inslee did last year? But it looks like they're going to let guys go through some struggles. So as long as he can consistently do what he's doing and stay out of the really like deep pits of struggles, like yeah, I would leave him there for as long as I could, because like I said, there's value in being able to hit different ways, but especially in the 9 hole, for like you said, for right now, we'll see if he stays there. There's always going to be value in somebody that low in the lineup that literally, quote me, knocks the piss out of it. He does
Yeah.
not miss the barrel when he hits it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because another guy I think in the lineup that knocks the piss out of it, and that's Gavin Killen. I mean, he's killing the baseball is what he's doing. I mean, there was
For
one,
sure.
was it yesterday? No, Friday night, where he hit that home run. I mean, he got and it wasn't a 400-foot bomb, but it was on a rope out of here.
Loud.
Yeah. So I mean, he's going to be fun to watch too, because he's just one of those guys that like when he hits one in a gap, I mean that's two. He's stand up double, or we could maybe stretch that into a triple, because he can run a little bit too. So I'm glad to kind of see him off to a fast start too, because when you get these transfers, like you just don't know. You just don't know like what you're. Yeah, like some of these guys are from SEC and big time programs, but still, it's got to translate, and it's all kind of about like we mentioned baseball is kind of an up and down. It's so new, and you're probably in your head about like, oh, I'm starting, I'm a big man on campus, national champions, blah blah blah. I mean, Cannon People is a perfect example. It just did not work when he, last year when he transferred over. So it is good to see these guys off to a hot start like Liam Doyle and Gavin Killen. I think Andrew Fisher's been fine. Somebody asked me today, like, are you worried about him struggling? I mean, he's not. The thing that was worrisome for me was, oh yeah, he's going to hit a lot of home runs, but he's going to strike out a lot. I mean, when we get to SEC play, we'll see if that's the case. Right now, he's not striking out a lot, and he's hitting some hard balls, but they're shifting to his side, and he just can't really find one to drop other than those couple home runs he's hit. So, yeah, I don't. I think that's not really an issue up to this point. I mean, he's being patient at the plate. He's drew some walks, and I think he's played a pretty good first base as well when he's been in. So I'm not really worried about Andrew Fisher. I would be if the strikeout numbers were up there, but they're just not.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't like my answer here, but it's I wouldn't mind if he just kept staying under the radar like that. Like I almost said struggles, but like you said, it's not really even struggles. Like it's just the nature of the game and how teams are going to play him. I'd be perfectly fine with teams starting to get the sentiment. Oh, like maybe he's not the same guy, and then he's right there in the heart of the order come SEC play, and he just absolutely they start saying, oh, like maybe he's not as dangerous as we thought. They throw a fastball over the plate and he turns on it. Like that's gonna happen at some point if he stays this quiet for this long. Teams are gonna start looking at all the other pieces like, oh, we got to worry about this guy before him, this guy after him, and they're gonna
Yeah.
forget about him, and he's gonna go on a tear. As far as the transfers in general, yeah, I mean, I think we get this misconception about the transfer portal that we hear the phrase plug and play. It's plug and play. Like it's the way to avoid having to develop freshmen in a position where you don't have time to wait. The reality of it, like the success stories paint over what it is actually. Like a lot of times a transfer is coming to you because something didn't work out there. They need a change of scenery. So when you get somebody like Gavin Killen, like he is the rare exception to where he is coming right in and he has a game that can translate anywhere. And yeah, it's easier in baseball. Like there's not, you're not going to a different system like you are in football.
Yeah.
You're
Sure.
not running man instead of zone in basketball. So we get this misconception about the portal. I think it gets kind of generalized as plug and play when in reality, the stories like Keelan are few and far between. But the fact that this roster or this staff seems to find those guys and add them to the roster and they just mesh in that well just speaks to the evaluation aspect of it.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, this lineup has been fun to watch. They have 20 home runs so far in 7 games, and I think four of them have been run rules, or five. 5 have been run rules, right?
I think 5.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just. I mean, Tennessee hasn't played. They played 2 full 9-inning games, which really, like, you're only batting in 6 of those innings that you have a run rule in. So I mean, there's a ton of ABs probably left out there, but I think this is going to be a good kind of filler to see kind of where Tennessee's at this weekend. When they go to Houston, I mean, we'll face, is it North Alabama? I think on
Lions,
Tuesday.
baby.
Oh yeah. And then we got Oklahoma State, Rice, and Arizona this weekend in Houston. Oklahoma State, they played in Arlington, I think, last weekend. They lost to Clemson, beat Louisville, lost to Texas, lost to Texas State on Tuesday, and then they beat UT Arlington on Sunday. So they had a weird schedule so far. Not really played like a full series. They're 2-3 so far on the season. Rice, I think, is 2-4, but they're like a historically good program. Like I remember when like the college baseball game come out, like Rice was a really good team.
Yeah.
They just haven't been up to this point, and their website doesn't work. So I don't even. I think they're 2-4 on the season, but not sure exactly what that schedule looks like. Arizona kind of they were in Arlington as well. They lost to Ole Miss 1-2, got beat by Clemson, and then lost to Louisville as well. Got run ruled in 8 innings. They beat New Mexico, and then they swept San Diego this past weekend. So they got a tough schedule ahead of them. They play number 1 Texas A&M, then they play Mississippi State, and then they play Tennessee on Sunday will be their last game. So looking forward to this weekend, just better competition, different field, just kind of see where Tennessee's at. And it's been good when Tennessee's done these things. Like you get to see kind of, obviously it's in a Dakin Park. That's what it is. It's in a pro stadium. So I'm sure that gets the juices flowing a little bit. Teams you don't normally see, this early in the season. But yeah, I do like these kind of college classics to just get a gauge to where Tennessee is. And, usually the borderline top 25 teams or at least Power 5 programs that usually can make a regional or kind of have it just has like a different vibe to it, I think.
Yeah, to me, it just comes down to the travel aspect of having to leave your stadium, and you're not doing it, to go play slouches. Like Rice is 2-4 on the year, but I mean they did play. They took USC to 11 innings. It looks like, and I mean USC that's not kind of slid in the past couple of years, but I it wouldn't surprise me at all to see us drop a game this weekend. And it's like I've said the past couple of years, that's we've seen it's not the end of the world. I would prefer it happen. Now, don't throw the game. Don't do the Alabama baseball coach betting scandal. Don't do all that and don't start texting people on the side and
Yeah.
pulling Liam Doyle after an
Yeah,
inning. But I mean,
probably
it
not.
wouldn't hurt anything. But I mean, you're going to be the most talented team on the field in all those games. Just play like it. You'll be fine. But at the same time, hey, a butt chewing for losing to one of these teams ain't going to hurt anybody. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know who I guess Oklahoma State is probably who I'd rather lose to in this one. If you were going to drop a game, but that's on Friday night, and I just have a hard time thinking it's Liam Doyle who takes an L to Oklahoma State. Maybe I'm wrong, but that just I don't know. Maybe it's Arizona on Sunday. Maybe that's a likely candidate just because of the bullpen aspect of it. Just a little bit. Not the I don't know, not the MLB stuff like Marcus Phillips and Liam Doyle and Tanner Franklin and those guys have at this point.
The Twitter trolls, it'll be the same headlines if you lose any of these. If it's
Oh,
Rice, Arizona, Oklahoma State, it'll be, oh, is there blood in the water? Like, is this not the same team as last year? I mean, we've seen it happen before. So,
oh yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
tweeted out
yeah,
today of who lost this weekend, and
right.
I got a lot of LSU fans in my DMs already or in my mentions already about like, oh, look at Tennessee. They're taking stock in a game in late February. Um, I guess real baseball fans care about wins and losses earlier. I'm like, okay, well, we just won a national championship, so I don't know what
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like to lose. It's been so long since I've lost a game. I don't remember how it is to lose. So I'm probably going to
You
have a
play the
panic
teams on your
attack when we do
schedule.
lose one.
You can only play the teams on your schedule, too. That's what I
Yeah.
tell them. I mean, I haven't, I mean, so, I mean, yeah, I don't call it, you don't, it's not the same as college basketball because obviously, like you do have to build a resume all year. Like that, these games do matter, but at the same time, like you said, the last if they want to talk about the last meaningful baseball, then I would point them to the team holding the trophy at the end of the year, and I'd say
Sure.
that's pretty meaningful. So
Yeah. Yeah, big weekend this coming weekend as Tennessee does travel to Houston. Kind of get that Omaha vibe a little bit because you don't know who you're going to play, which I guess you do know who you're going to play ahead of time, but like you don't. It's not like we played Texas A&M 3 times this weekend. No, we're playing a different team every single day, so you got to bring it every single day. Scouting reports are different, and it's not like a series that you're preparing for. It's a game by game instance. So looking forward to that. Before we get out of here, let's do our MVP of the week.
I'm going Abernathy just
Okay.
because that he showed you. I mean, stats wise, like I don't know who statistically stacked up the best, but that's not really how I pick it. I mean, I want to go Levi Clark just to ride my high horse from last weekend of hey, he needs to see the field as much as possible. But if we do look at the stats wise, the 0 for 4, that's that first. That's kind of I don't know if I can go that far, but if you hit it
Yeah.
like that and piss the umpire off bad enough with your pimp job to where he's telling you to get down to first base, which we all know how I feel about that. But I'll go Abernathy just because just literally you see what he can do, and I guess if I was betting on him, he's my value pick right now at MVP because you get him while the odds are a little bit better because
Okay.
he's going to be
I
on the
like
field
that.
consistently later.
How many stolen bases did he have this weekend? Do we
I think
know?
10,000.
Pretty close.
Conservatively speaking, yeah,
Yeah.
10,000. Yeah,
Yeah. Probably
all
safe
the
bet.
bases.
Um, I want to go Levi Clark too, but I'm not just because he only had 2 at bats the last 2 days. They were big at bats. I think he's definitely the MVP of Saturday's game for sure.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Reese Chapman. He was 5 for 9 on the weekend. A couple RBIs. I thought he was really good, and I'm excited to kind of see where he's developed, and we'll see if it's able to carry over into SEC play. But I think he's playing really good right now.
he's going to be in the lineup until somebody beats him out. Nobody's beating him out right now. And
No,
another good value pick for MVP. You picked him before. Well, I don't know if he's your MVP before the year, but you were on him high. That's if you did bet on him, you got pretty good odds then.
oh I'm cashing in on those bets for sure. I think you could have definitely went Liam Doyle as well. I mean, that 14 strikeouts is crazy.
You're going to have a lot of chances to pick him though. He's
Oh yeah.
that dude. That's the last thing I'll ask you. Do you think he is locked in at the Friday spot? Because I understand the value of starting every series up 1-0. I mean that you're not having to play from a hole then, but at the same
Mhm.
time, do you see him possibly moving around to Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. I think you leave him there until you need to maybe move him. Because
I
that's what
agree.
they kind of did with Chase Burns. It was Chase Burns' spot, and then he struggled a little bit, and then they kind of changed it up a little bit to get him, I don't know, change his scenery, I guess was the best word for it. But yeah, until he struggles a little bit, I think you leave that alone. Let him be him.
I agree. I just saw some people like, oh, well, why would you not want him in like the closeout spot? I'm like, because if you can win the first game, that you're not going to be in as many closeout spots where you have to have it. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I saw some people talking about that, and I was like, I don't. It's an interesting question, but I don't. If you know you've got that lockdown to start a series, yeah, I tend to agree. I wouldn't touch that.
yeah, making a team beat a talented team like Tennessee twice. I think that's what you do.
Yeah,
You put them in an absolute hole and make them claw their way out of it. If they do it, I think props to that team, and I don't think many people are able to beat Tennessee twice in a row like that.
I feel it's literally just a random thought. I don't know the stats on this to back it up at all, but it feels like the first game, the Friday games. It feels like those are always the ones that start off a little bit slower too.
Yeah,
Again, having a dude that can shove like that just to keep them on edge for even longer, keep them from finding their stride for even longer into the weekend. Yeah, it's a lot of value in that.
yeah, and just save all your bullpen too. If you don't need to use them, don't.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else before we get out of here?
Hopefully warmer weather.
We
It's the
need
only
that.
complaint I have so far.
Yeah, need to be playing golf on Saturday mornings and then head to Lindsey Nelson. That's what I'm looking forward to. Guys, thank y'all so much for listening. We'll be back with episode 3 next Monday, so go check that out. Thank y'all again.